Hey cats, what's happening? The weather outside isn't very conducive to riding today. You know, there's something about riding that gives you the feeling of flying. You know, you get on that bike, you get that engine between your legs and your hand on the throttle, and you control your speed. It's a little bit of a rush to hit the road and just crank through those gears and just to go sailing off into the wind. It's like they say, if I have to explain it, you wouldn't understand. But those of us that ride, we do understand, and we do understand the thrill of the speed too. Now, I don't know how many of you are into speed. I know nowadays the kids on these sport bikes, not all of them, but some of them really like the high speed. In fact, push it to the degree where it's just a death wish, because any kind of a mistake at those high speeds can end up in a disaster. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, but going back to the speed thing, you know, I remember when I was younger, I was much younger, I was probably in my 20s, and I rode this Kawasaki Triple, a 3-cylinder. I think it was a 750, and it was a 2-cycle machine, so you mixed the gas and the oil, and it was fast. When those 3 cylinders, those 2-cycle cylinders reached that power band, you know, when the RPMs went up to that certain tack, boom, it was like hanging onto a rocket sled. And I used to take off on that thing like a rocket. Back then, no fear, you know. I think my top speed on that bike was about 125 miles an hour. I don't know how much faster it would have gone, to be honest with you, but that was fast enough for me. Quite a thrill, I must add. And that worked out pretty good until I got a ticket on the highway for speeding. So that was the end of that. I thought a little harder about it before I you know, took off like a rocket. I had a friend who liked to ride with us, and we had this little club, you know, we called the Pack, and we used to go out in the evenings and ride around. He was more of a daredevil than the rest of us, and he really liked the high speeds. He was pretty good at doing wheelies down the road on a street bike. The rest of us were just like, nah, my thing, you know. But as we rode around at night, one of the things he liked to do, and he always took us up here, was down in town there was like a central interchange, and it was like where you got on the expressway, and it was like a big clover leaf, so you could jump on the expressway up the ramp, and as soon as you got over the overpass, you could exit right back off again, come back around through the state route, get on northbound, loop around, get back off again, get on southbound again, loop back around, and just keep doing that clover leaf. Now, he would go so fast around those exit ramps and the entrance ramps, which had the big long curves with the guardrails, and he would go so fast, he would, you know, have the knee down and you know, just like a road racer, and nailing it, and all we saw was his tail like leaving us, because the rest of us weren't that skilled at cornering at those kind of speeds. Now, that all was fun and games. One day we were out riding, and it was a Sunday afternoon, sunny Sunday afternoon, and I don't know how many of us were out on the road that day. We had a number of bikes. And we were in a rural part of Ohio, and just cruising along. I think I was probably doing about 65 miles an hour down this long, straight, rural country road, like a state route or something. There wasn't a lot of traffic, as I remember. And my buddy decided that at that point, he was going to see how fast he could go. I think he was on a Kawasaki. He cranked on the throttle, and as I was riding along, the next thing I realized, he was going past me and accelerating at the same time. When he passed me, I think he was probably going 90 miles an hour, so I think his top speed was well over 100 miles an hour. And again, I just saw his tail light going off into the distance. Well, he got, maybe, a couple hundred yards ahead of us, maybe a couple lengths of a football field or so, and he started getting a front wheel wobble. Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced that. It's pretty scary. At high speed, some bikes are not designed properly, they're not balanced properly, and the front end starts to wiggle. And once it starts to go, it just keeps getting worse and worse until the front wheel wobbles so much you totally lose control. Well, his bike started a front wheel wobble, and he, no matter how hard he tried to get it in control, he lost total control, and he laid the bike down. Well, he was so far ahead that you really couldn't make out anything except all of a sudden this big cloud of like dust and as we approached, probably another quarter mile down the road, he was already like sitting on the side of the berm in the grass with his head between his knees. His bike was way out in the middle of the soybean field. And we pulled off on the berm, we stopped, we got off our bikes, we ran over there to see if he was okay. Well, he had done quite a tumble and hit the asphalt. Luckily he was wearing a helmet. But when he went to hit the asphalt, he put his hands out, he went hands first, so his hands hit the asphalt first, and it just peeled the palms of his hands right down. This was all just raw flesh, and his palms were hanging down here on both hands. And then the one cheek of his butt was shaved off like somebody took a grinder to it. So he was hurting pretty good. And he managed to keep his act together, though. We kept him sitting there on the side of the road. We told him, just keep your head between your legs, you'll be all right. And back then, I don't even know if we had cell phones on us at that time. But somebody took off to get help, and it wasn't too long, maybe about a half hour or so, that an ambulance showed up, and they were able to take him to the hospital and get him stitched back up where he was okay. So it wasn't critical or anything, but nonetheless, it was kind of scary. So, how fast can you go, and how fast is too fast? Like I said, these guys on these sport bikes, it's all a big thrill to them. And especially those ones that cut traffic, that cut lanes and go in between the cars. They're putting their lives at a great risk, but I think what they don't understand is they're putting other people at risk too. If they are to go down, what's the traffic going to do that's behind them? Where are you going to go if you're in a vehicle, or you try not to run the guy over if he hits the road or whatever. Very dangerous thing, but it is a thrill nonetheless. So, the need for speed. I'm too old for that now. I get my thrill out of going out riding. I like to crank through the gears. I won't kid you about that. And I probably do push the speed limit sometimes, maybe 10, 15 miles over the speed limit. But that's going to be about it for this old coot. I just take it easy nowadays, and I'm into just cruising. Okay, so there you go, cats. That's my spiel for today. That's all I have. The weather's lousy. Got about 6 inches of snow last night, so who knows when we'll be able to ride again. It may be another 2 months down the road. I would hope it would be sooner than that, but in Ohio, highly doubtful. Till next time, cats, ride hard and die